Since the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization case in 2022, which overturned Roe versus Wade and the federal right to abortion services, 19 states have banned or restricted abortion before fetal viability. And the threats to abortion as medical care continue. A provision buried within U.S. President Trump's Big Beautiful Tax Bill includes language denying Medicaid funding to any large provider of abortion services.
If President Trump signs this into law, the consequences would be catastrophic. Nearly 200 Planned Parenthood health centers could close. More than 1.1 million patients could lose access to care, birth control, wellness visits, STI tests, cancer screenings, and more.
Federal taxpayer funds cannot be used for abortion, but some state Medicaid funds can in some areas. Private funding can be used to help cover the procedure for low-income patients, but donations have subsided.
Republicans just can't help themselves. If they can find a way to attack abortion care, they do it. And when you know it, they snuck what essentially amounts to a backdoor abortion ban into the health provisions of this big, ugly betrayal. That's right. Not only does the Republican monstrosity of a bill make health care more expensive and harder to get, they are also trying to stop health plans from covering abortion altogether.
Anytime you limit any access or choice, you're not limiting that for people who have a lot of resources. You're limiting it for people who have few resources. And that's more representative of most of the United States. My sister is actually quoted in an amicus brief that was filed here because she was on Medicaid and got basic health care at Planned Parenthood. So yeah, it impacts a huge amount of Americans if all of a sudden they're not allowed to choose where to get health care.
One mitigating factor to the abortion bans and restrictions in certain states is medication abortion. Abortion-inducing pills can be prescribed for qualifying patients over telehealth, including women in states where abortion is banned.
Well, one of the deep ironies that has taken place since Dobbs is that medication abortion care is actually more accessible today in many states with bans than it was prior to Dobbs. And that's because of telemedicine and because of the SHIELD laws. But what makes the SHIELD law comprehensive is that it effectively redefined the location of telemedicine abortion care. So if a clinician is licensed in Massachusetts, resides in Massachusetts, and practices from Massachusetts, for the purposes of telemedicine medication abortion care, that care is now considered to be taking place in Massachusetts, regardless of where the patient is located.
We go back to what the Dobbs decision permitted, and it was allowing the states to do what they want, allow the issue to come back to the people. So if the people of Louisiana or people of Texas want to protect unborn lives, they should be permitted to do so in a meaningful way to enforce those laws. But because those states with shield laws, such as California, New York, Delaware, Washington, D.C., and other states, they have now protected those providers who are knowingly and openly violating the law.
The Trump administration has not enforced an 1873 anti-obscenity law called the Comstock Act to federally ban abortion. But the law, which some legal experts say was about enforcing sexual purity, specifically outlaws mailing every article or thing designed, adapted, or intended for producing abortion.
There's a lot of women that have testified how Planned Parenthood has hurt them. It is not health care. It is not any portion of health care. There's no doctor follow-up. There's no any kind of care or concern for the mother or, of course, for the life of the baby.
The provisions in the Comstock Act were narrowed as the United States evolved and eventually made obsolete in 1973 with Roe versus Wade. However, the law, while obsolete, was never repealed, and abortion providers are concerned pro-life advocates could resurrect certain provisions within it.
Republicans are looking to rip away health care from millions more Americans. The callousness doesn't stop there. They're also fighting to take Americans' rights away in terms of reproductive rights. So let's make no mistake about it. This is a backdoor abortion ban snuck into the bill by the Republican senators because they, unlike their constituencies, are vehemently anti-choice.
For now, abortion pills are still legally obtainable through the mail. But as opponents of abortion rights continue to push for legal ways to restrict women from obtaining the procedure, The fight for abortion as medical care continues in the United States.